Welcome to Through the Cruft, where we're sharing good things on the internet one find at a time. Today we have Dawain Atkinson on the show to talk about podcasting, creating a podcast network, and producing the Just Thinking podcast. Dawain and I jump right into it, so we hope you enjoy. So whatever, how did you start the bar? How did you get into podcasting? Is this what you do full time? Like you can start anywhere you want to start. I don't really care.
Okay. Well, first, my name is Dawain Atkinson. I guess how I got into podcasting is a interesting story. It actually is a part of my personal testimony, just in finding sound biblical doctrine. I was kind of brought into the office of a coworker who happened to be a Presbyterian pastor that walked me through the Westminster Confession. When we were done, he was like, "Hey, you need to listen to this podcast, this. I'm like, "What's a podcast?" And so he's like, "You got an Apple phone, right?" And I pulled it out, and he looked up Ligonier. He looked up Grace to You. He looked up True for Life. He was like, "These are the 3 podcasts you need to subscribe to and listen." So I started listening, and, me being fresh on this idea of, sound biblical doctrine, I was just eating. And then I hear somebody mention something about Christ the Centered. And now, boom, I'm listening to Christ the Centered. I'm listening to White Horse Inn. And I'm like, man, like these are, it's just like real huge, deep theological stuff. And I'm just loving it, learning as I go. And then I stumbled across this podcast called the Reformed Pubcast.
I know that one.
Tanner. Yeah. And so I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You can have fun while still talking about theology? Like, nobody told me that. Like, this is new. So they were actually my inspiration for jumping into podcasting, because they brought theological topics with kind of their own fun spin. And I thought to myself, like, man, I can do that. Like, I have a good personality, I can put a little fun spin on it. And I love theology, man. And so that actually inspired me to start podcasting. And the original idea, because if you rewind back maybe now 7 years ago, I started a page on Facebook called Be Not Deceived. Okay. A lot of people might know it, not know it. It's a discernment page. So on that page, I gathered together a team of people. And so that same team of people, fast forward to, 2016, 15, 16, when I got interested in podcasting, I was like, hey, we need to all get around the microphone and everybody, and do like this group thing. And we just tackle, current events. We'll make it like, I don't know, some kind of round table. And man, and like I know, you can't get 2 people together at the same time. Imagine getting 5 or 6.
So the first thing I was going to ask you was like, how did that work?
Yeah,
because no way,
no way, yeah. So we would do a show, and then I couldn't get nobody's schedule online, and then we'll do a show, and then I actually went to there's this app called Sermon Audio. And Sermon Audio had a pop-up on it. It said Steve Lawson in Greenville, South Carolina. And I was like, yo, I live in Greenville, South Carolina at the time. And so I went to hear Steve Lawson preach, right? Me and my wife. And right behind me was Todd Friel. After the service, I'm Todd Friel. I'm like, hey, sir, I appreciate your work. I'm a big fan, whatever. I was like, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, man. What do you think? And he was like, oh, man, you need to do it. African-American with this and this and that and that. I was like, it was like the light bulb, like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to wait on my buddies. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and start this show, man. And I started the Bar Podcast, which stands for Biblical and Reformed, which does not stand for Black and Reformed, even though I am Black, even though that was suggested. That is not what it stands for. And even though biblical and reformed is technically a oxymoron because they mean the same thing, according to Steve Lawson, he told me that in my face when he saw my bar t-shirt. I was like, well, Steve, I don't care. It looks good on the shirt. But anyway.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. But so that's how I started the podcast, man. And so because I couldn't get everybody in the place at the same time, what I did is I decided to do interview style. Yeah. And so I started interview style, literally, just sending emails, man. A lot of people ask me, what's your secret? How do you get, Steve Lawson, Mark Dever, Ligon Duncan, Chris Lawrence from Lord. How you get these people? And I have no secret sauce. I literally was like, I just sent them an email. You know, no idea. So that's what started the bar. And you know, I literally signed myself up for every Tuesday until Jesus come back. So that has been my commitment, and by God's grace, we've been doing that. And as that built momentum, I looked back at my buddies and I was like, hey, this podcast thing is hitting. This is the future. This is where we're going. You know, if you guys want to start your own, you got ideas, let me know, and we'll build a network. So that's where the network idea came from. And that actually is how we got Just Thinking Podcast, #1 podcast in the Christian arena a couple times on iTunes. That's how we got Bars, Biblical Reform Spitters. T. Barlow, Virgil, we're both on that original crew. There's some more original folks that are still spinning their wheels trying to figure out what they want to do. But since then, we've added other podcasts that were either already established or because I came about it the way I did. Like, I'm an average Joe. Like, literally, I don't have a bestseller. I don't have a church. I'm not a pastor. I'm literally a lay person. And so when people saw me doing this and impacting the way I am, they thought like, hey, I can do this too, which they can, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so that inspired a lot of people to reach out to me. And when certain people reached out to me, their ideas kind of matched what I was doing. I invited them onto the network. And so that's how this whole bar network thing came. Is it my full-time job? It is not. I actually don't desire it to be my full-time job.
Okay.
I'm a full-time driver recruiter, but I work from home. We're on Zoom. You can see my desk back there. And so I have to me, an awesome job, make good money. So I'm not, and that mindset helped me with the network, be in a place where I don't have to tax the people. You don't have membership fees. I'm not trying to, make every single penny off of all of these people. What I want to do is just provide, pretty much the bar network is a brand. It's a name. When people see it, they know if they see a podcast with that name or label, oh, this is biblically sound. This is good sound quality.
For sure.
This is, good, people that are taking God's gift and using it to the best of their ability. So that's pretty much kind of everything in a nutshell, kind of the fast forward version, but that's what you got with me.
So if I am a show, right, and you and I hit it off, and you say, "Hey, I want you to join the bar." I know certain places say, "Okay, now you become part of us, and like you're part of our feed and part of all that stuff." Or do you let them sit as an independent show just under the brand, or do you try to suck them in and say, "Now you're us, and there's no way you can get away from us"?
Yeah, so I hate that model. Whenever the bar took off, we got several invitations to go that model with other people. Several, like people, if I name you, like, why didn't you do it? Like, nope, because that model in a nutshell is a pyramid scheme. When you leave or something change, your subscribers stay with that RSS feed. And now you have to start all over by yourself. So with the bar network, you have your own RSS feed. You are an independent entity. At any time, you can say, "Hey, Dawain, I don't, this isn't a good fit or whatever. I feel this, feel that." And when you leave, everything leaves with you. Nothing is tied, connected, bonded, nothing. But while you're with us, it's just like family. It's just like, it's just like a network. You get all the benefits. You get access to me. You get access to the rest of the team that can help you. You get all of those things. And we're going to help you build your own subscribers. We're not going to get you to build our subscribers. We hope that our name send people your way. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of the thing is we're not trying to build our empire. We're trying to build several empires all together. And so no matter what happens to me or the bar or whatever, your podcast is still laying.
Yeah. See, I love that. I love that model because, it's not like a selfish thing or anything like that. It's a matter of things change, right? Like things change in people's lives, things change in the network, things change all over the place. And if everything, sits in one bottleneck, that gets real muddy real fast, and it can get let's just say challenging. Let's just put it that way, right? It
Yep.
can get very, very challenging. All right.
It can.
All right, so you've been doing the bar,
It
the
can be-
actual
it can
bar
be
network
extremely
show,
challenging,
or
for
sorry,
sure.
the actual bar podcast show. You've been doing that one for what, 4 or 5 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what's your
I'll be 5 in March.
what's your biggest highlight of that show? What's your man? I really wish I wouldn't have XYZ. Like what? Like just hit the two ends of the spectrum for me. For
Oh
some, for the
man,
people.
it's an excellent question. Yes, I sure will. Yeah. So I always tell people, because I get the question, "What's your favorite show? Your favorite guest?" And for me, the bar it helps me grow spiritually. And so my favorite guests are the ones that challenge me, and there are 3 that I have that do that. One is Josh Bice of G3. Every time Josh Bice gets on my show, he literally because even right now I'm trying to find a home church. I just moved to Fayetteville, so I'm looking. Josh makes me feel bad for not being connected to a home church yet. Every time, I know it's coming. It's like the punch in the gut that is coming, but it still lands because his passion for the local church, and I love that. I love that he always holds me accountable for that. The next one would be Mark Dever. The interview with Mark Dever, he just came in, just very Mark Deverish, 6'3", linebacker looking. Came in, where you guys at? How can I be praying for you? What's going on? So he came in the conversation like that, and then because he's an agnostic, he used to be an agnostic before he got saved. I was telling him about a coworker that was an agnostic, and he stopped in the middle of the podcast. He was like, "Well, I pray, Dawain, that you care as much about your coworker's soul as you do this podcast." And so at the time, the podcast was my world. It was like,
yeah, oh yeah,
he punched me in the stomach, So that was amazing. And then this next one is Miss Butterfield, Miss Rosario Butterfield. She just wrote the book, Gospel as a House Key, talking about bringing people into your house and hospitality and things like that, And so I was like, I'm more of a security guy, and I'm more of a, you're not getting in my house. I got guns, And I was just straight up with her, and she was just like, well, Dawain, those guns, that security, could be the difference between someone's heaven or hell experience. And it was just like,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. But, and it's funny, secular people were like, well, how's that a highlight? But honestly, it helped me, it helped me grow. So, the down dirty pit of the podcast history is, I call it the greatest episode never heard.
Okay.
I recorded early on, bro, it might have been 2015. I got R.C. Sproul Jr.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
R.C. Sproul Jr. post Ashley Madison pre DUI. And we had probably the best conversation I ever had. He laughed, he cried, he talked about what was going on with the Ashley Madison thing, and he talked about his special needs daughter. He talked about preaching at the abortion mill. He talked about, the death of his wife. It was just like, it was the greatest show ever, and I didn't hit record.
Oh.
If there was a cliff nearby, brother, nearby, I would have ran slam off. I think I called everybody I knew after that and just cried about it.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, that was a pit of podcasting, man. Like I said, I call it the greatest show never heard, man. But
wow.
Yep.
I hurt for you right now.
Yes.
It's almost like I'm like, oh man, that hurts so bad.
It's bad, man. It's bad. I went down to hit the button to stop the recording. They said, your call is being recorded. I was like, just all the air just went out of me. He had already hung up everything. I was like, oh.
And then ever since then, you've been recording backup with a backup with a backup.
For sure.
As
sure.
a backup.
For sure. Look, SD card, everything. Like we got several backups of the backups.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so then you roll into Sidebar, right?
Yeah.
Is that how new is that? Like how?
Sidebar actually was an experiment. Everybody was talking about Anchor and how Anchor works, and RSS feed, and they take your content, blah 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 blah. So I wanted to see for myself. I was like, "Yo, I'm about to start this podcast." And at the time I was waking up like 3:00 in the morning going to the gym, and I would come back home and I would just jump on the microphone and on Anchor. And I just started talking, man. I mean, just uncut, yawning, and just whatever I was thinking about, I would talk about it. And it eventually kind of developed into a kind of a podcast for podcasters because I was getting so many inquiries about podcasting. And so I just started doing kind of a topical deal with it. I'm still not sure what I want to do with Sidebar. Sidebar is kind of like that thing I can just pick up anytime. And whatever I'm feeling, and do it. It has a nice little supporting. I always say my Sidebar listeners are like it's my little cult, on the side, man, but yeah, no, I've been doing that. I guess consistently I've been doing it for about a year, a year or so. But again, it really came out of just kind of experimenting with Anchor and understanding the working so I could tell other people about it.
Well, and what's your thought on it? Do you like Anchor?
Yeah. So since then, I've had the opportunity to speak with some Anchor representatives, some Spotify folks, all thanks to Just Thinking. When you do numbers like that, people start calling.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, Anchor. I like Anchor. Anchor's a phenomenal platform for beginners because, number one, they're free. And what they provide on the free side is to the same level of a Buzzsprout or any of those guys. One of the great features that they have that a lot of people will take for granted is they give you a landing page. For people that don't have a website, that's gold. Where you can have a landing page for your listeners to go to and not necessarily try to send them to Spotify or send them to Apple, but you actually send them to your landing page on Anchor. And another golden thing they have is they run at ads, which everybody run ads, but Anchor will allow you to run their ads until they find a ad for you. And so you can make money in that transition while you're waiting. You can make money. With that being said, with Just Thinking, we literally have made about $4,000 on ads just from running Anchor's ads, not running anybody else's. So.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. And so it's good. I'm glad I asked you the question because it's like I had some of the very same. Oh yeah. You read the different articles and they're like, oh, they're gonna XYZ. They're gonna and it's like if you're trying to. I think if you're trying to go monetization, right, and that's your whole argument, you don't go Anchor, right? Because you do lose certain control aspects of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. But so you're not really, and I hate to cut you off, but not really, because if you know podcasting, if you know like RSS feed and things like that, if you know how to develop that on your own, Anchor won't do anything. They'll just be a regular host. It's for the people that don't know how to do RSS feed, the people that let Anchor develop it for them. Those are the ones that have issues with transferring or moving or things like that. But if you already know how to create your own code for RSS feed and submit it, whatever, all you do is you give that to Anchor and then they just host through that RSS feed. They don't own anything. So there's ways. So Just Thinking, I didn't start Just Thinking on Anchor. I started Just Thinking somewhere else. We did a mirror RSS feed. So Anchor don't even know our original RSS feed because we have a mirror link. And so, there's way if that's the direction you want to go, you can go that direction and keep all of your content and all of your access.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just get the free hosting
exactly.
and the positive features, but you don't do the one click subscribe me to everywhere
exactly
kind of deal. Okay, so you just kind of gave people a preview. Like one of the things that I thought about sending you a note for before all of this was you have a coaching thing, right? Like so talk to us about the coaching thing because people might not know about this.
Sure. So thanks to my man Charles Simpson, I've been pretty much giving away the whole. I would honestly tell you everything you need to know in an inbox. That's just my nature. Charles convinced me to set up a actual coaching consulting, I guess you could say business And with that, I do, Zoom calls like we're doing now, and pretty much, just kind of analyze where you are. And I actually can get you everything you need in a call, and I provide a free call. But I analyze where you are, and I just take, trade tips, things that I've learned over the years, things that I put in practice because of, just thinking and all of that. And so I just provide that service. And then if someone wants to actually be a part of the coaching program, then that gives you access to me, at least once a week video, as well as constant communication, any questions through the whole process. If you're brand new, every step of the way from, logos to name to, setting up the RSS feed to submitting it, sending it out, all of that stuff. So I will walk you through all of that, as well as, preparing for a launch, how to do a launch, all of those things, man, when it comes to podcasts. And a lot of people are doing it real fancy. I'm just an old country boy, man. So I just do it. I just kind of do it on a whim, man. I don't have I need to put together some kind of a brochure so I don't have to say the same thing over and over again. But I enjoy interacting with people. So
I was going to say, have you found that to be beneficial for yourself as well as the people that are coming for the consulting? For
sure, man. Because when everybody, I think men, we just naturally like to solve problems. And so you give me an opportunity to number one thing it does is it inspires me, the whole idea of just all of these content creators, coming up with new concepts and things like that, new ideas, that inspires me. And then also being able to be a help. That is like God knows that's my, besides giving him glory, that's my sole purpose, man, is helping people, man. I love it so much. And I love, and the main reason why I started it and the way that I am is because when I started, nobody helped me. Like literally, I sent a lot of inboxes, a lot of them stayed on red, a lot of non-responses, or if they was responding, it would be the bare minimum, as if I was, I guess taking up their time. And so I promised myself, when I got in a position that I will always be available. And then I always will treat every single podcast, every invitation, with the utmost respect and give them as much knowledge as I can, honestly, for free. I really don't even have to charge, but, I just love doing it, man.
Yeah. So do you have to filter those, right? Like, do you get many requests from people who, let's just say, aren't biblical and reformed? And do you have to filter through those?
No, I help them too. They need help too. They as far as like, as far as being on the network, you have to be, reformed, biblical, whatever. But as far as me coaching you and helping you, we can wholeheartedly disagree. But because you want to make content and you want to start a podcast, I support that. I will help you with that, if that's what you need. And that's kind of where I stand. I've helped a young man recently that we disagree wholeheartedly on social justice. And his pastor is one of the ones that's going around memed and everything over the social justice thing, But I helped him turn his YouTube channel into a podcast. He paid me, but I literally took his YouTube videos with the help of Anchor's new feature of video drop into Anchor. I literally took all of his content, created the podcast, helped him with the logo, got him some intro music, all of that stuff, and we, like I said, we totally disagree on the social justice issue. So I have no issues with helping people, man.
Nice.
Just as long as, as long as it's not like some kind of Satan channel or something. I don't think
there is forgive the phrase. There is a bar there, but it's pretty hard to reach that.
It's hard to reach it, man. If you come in with that, so
let me see if I can add something to maybe your tool chest. Oh, come on, let's see if I can get it. Do you know Headliner?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Headliner's awesome.
Yeah, I suggest Headliner to folks.
For sure, because making not only social media posts, right? Like it makes really slick social media posts, but then to take a podcast and turn it into a YouTube video for people to listen to there. Like it.
So
like
let me put something on your tool chest.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a whole nother hosting. But Red Circle, I met with Red Circle a couple months ago, and I moved the bar to Red Circle. Red Circle actually has YouTube integrated into it as well, just like Headliner. So when you upload your audio for your regular podcast, you can click a YouTube publishing link. Publishing button, and it'll do it for you. Post it for you.
It just does it for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Nice. Yeah, and Red Circle has kind of like a built-in Patreon feature, like where you can have exclusive content. Literally, all you do is click a button to say this is exclusive or this is not, and boom. And people that subscribe $5 a month, $2, whatever you pick, they get access to it.
Nice, very cool, very cool. What's the cost? What's the cost to get into it?
It is free.
Oh, shut up.
Yep, Red Circle. Okay. They reached out to me when Anchor did. They reached out a week after Anchor for Just Thinking. We went with Anchor for Just Thinking, and I like what they were talking about. I was like, shoot, I got a podcast. Let me come. Let me come.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out. Oh,
bro,
sure.
It's amazing.
And then just so you have a bunch of, do you know Pinecast?
Pinecast?
Pine, Pine, like the tree. Pinecast.
No.
Yeah, so I host everything I do on Pinecast, and for $5 a month, I can do as many shows as I want to. There's a built-in like website builder, and it's okay. Like it has a lot to be desired, but you can actually make it work fairly well as like your landing page, and it'll at least auto populate different feeds. But I've been really happy with just kind of their support, and it's cheap. I mean, it's only $5 a month. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so I still think if you know what you're doing and you're happy with Anchor, I wouldn't move. But at the same time, I'm already into that, and I've had good experience with it. So just another option for people.
Yeah, Anchor for Just Thinking is perfect. They also featured Just Thinking on a Spotify email blast that went out for Black podcasts, because that was the thing 2020.
Nice.
Anchor is, and then like I said, we're making money just off of the plays, because there's so many clicks. You get so much money per click. So Anchor's working for Just Thinking just fine. Red Circle, because they're new, I like being kind of on Red Circle. I'm on there, and Doctrine and Devotion is on there. I don't know if you know Joe.
I do know Doc and Devo.
Yeah. So they just started their exclusive content thing started today, and they're doing it through Red Circle. So I actually text them before I got on the call. I was like, congratulations on using that feature you've had the whole time. Yeah,
I was gonna say, so what are they gonna put the banter on Red Circle? Because everybody likes the banner so much.
Exactly. They're gonna put what they call it, banner of truth, and then they're gonna do wisdom something, like a daily 5-minute little devotional thing is gonna be on there. Yep. But they're on Red Circle as well.
Well, all right. So you got the coaching, you got your own show, you have the Just Thinking, right? Which Just Thinking, you're the producer.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So Just Thinking, a lot of people don't know, but Just Thinking was technically my idea. Daryl was a writer. Virgil was, pastor, podcast guest every now and again. And so when I interviewed Daryl for the Bar podcast, I was like, yo, this dude sounds a lot like Virgil. Like some of the things that Virgil be saying, this guy be saying too. And so fast forward, man, I put them guys together. And so the agreement I came up with for Daryl, because, Daryl, he's seasoned vet, and he's a prolific writer and, professional man. What I came up with him was, hey, Daryl, if you just do the content, I will pretty much produce the show and handle everything else. All you do is plug and go. And so what producer means in this case, actually taking the audio, creating the podcast, as well as creating the graphics for the show, as well as setting up the website. So I do pretty much, like I said, they do the content, and I just produce the actual material that everybody consumes. By God's grace, I've been able to delegate a lot of those things in 2020. When we first started out, it was all me, but now we've built the team that pretty much just supervise and oversee, make sure that they do it right. And that's kind of that's the actual role of producer. It's kind of like an overseer. Originally, I was like producer / audio engineer / social media guy. So that's kind of what that means.
So are you involved in the next topic? Because their topics on that show are deep, and they're taking a long time to figure out what they're going to say and how they're going to say it and all that stuff. So how involved in that process are you?
So I kind of leave that to them. I'm in the text thread, like me, Daryl and Virgil share a text message. I'm in the thread. I don't put much input. I mean, unless it's a really good idea. I was like, oh, that's dope. That's a great idea. But a lot of the actual topic stuff comes from Virgil and Daryl kind of throwing stuff back and forth from each other. Usually Daryl gets a conviction about something, and that's how they go. If he don't, then that's when Virgil starts to brainstorm. And then they just Virgil just start throwing stuff, and whatever sticks, then they go that direction. Then once they pick a topic, then, as you said, they do a deep dive in research and reading and writing. Daryl, all of his shows are at least 20 pages of notes. And, Virgil just kind of, they have a great chemistry, and they got a great format. Daryl literally writes his whole dialogue for the show, and he picks his spots for Virgil. So in his notes, he put an asterisk in red. He's like Virgil, and so when Virgil's reading his notes, when he see Virgil see his name, he's like, bet, okay, what I needed to be talking about. And that's how Virgil created his bullet points that insert inside of Daryl's notes.
Nice. So would you rather be so I'm going to make you pick one.
Okay.
You're only allowed to do one thing. You either create shows and actually are like the voice on the mic, or you produce shows, right? Where you're not the voice on the mic, but you're putting everything together and you're doing all the really, important background work to get it done.
Well,
which one would you rather do?
I hit a button. Okay. I would rather be the producer. I've been contemplating pulling the plug on my shows. I've been thinking about it, but I enjoy behind the scenes. I enjoy the hustle and bustle of the whole idea, and actually when it comes to even with my content, I enjoy the hustle and bustle behind more than I enjoy the actual conversation, which the conversations are great. But if I had to pick one, I would definitely be 100% producer.
That is so funny, because I am absolutely the opposite, right? And that's why I texted you, or that's why I messaged you the other day, because I love this part of it. Like, I love talking to you. Yeah. I love asking interesting questions. I love learning from people and things like that. I don't mind doing the editing, and I don't mind getting it out there and trying to build the brand and all that stuff. But that stuff takes way more of my energy. Like, it sucks my energy dry. Whereas, like, I leave this conversation and my wife will be so annoyed because I'll be like, "Oh, Dawain said this, and we were talking about this, and we were doing this," and she's like, "Okay, I don't care." She's like, "I don't care about any of this." Right. But she's a sweet woman, so she'll entertain me. But no, that's interesting how different people were wired. There was something I wanted to ask you about the Just Thinking side of it. Oh, okay. So you've been on your own show, right? Mm-hmm. You got the bar where let me make a statement. You correct me. Is it soup to nuts? You do everything on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Up until about maybe a month ago, but go ahead.
Okay. So you're soup to nuts on that all by yourself. Then you've done Just Thinking, where you're basically producer,
mm-hmm.
right? And I don't know what the level of the bar is, right, in terms of listeners and downloads and mm-hmm. interaction with people who listen to the show. But then I can imagine, based on watching it, from afar, and then hearing you talk about it a little bit, Just Thinking was small, right? It wasn't huge, and then Just Thinking in 2020 goes bananas, right? Yep. So now you've seen these different sides of making content. You've seen these different sides of putting stuff out there. Just talk to me about, like, what's it like? What's different? What's good? What's bad about it?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just intrigued.
Sure. So, you know, the bar is it's a steady burn, man. It's a constant climb. We haven't reached we haven't reached 1 million yet. We're close to 1 million downloads. And the bar is always going to be the same. It's like penicillin, you know, it's going to taste nasty every time. It's going to always be consistent. And that's been my that I understand that about my show. Like, I don't get caught up in numbers, downloads, or whatever. I know people literally find my podcast and look for somebody that they know. That's just the nature of the beast with my show. I understand that. With Just Thinking, 2019, it's funny. 2019 in December, I sat down with Charles Simpson, who is now kind of like the digital tech guy that, you know, for the network and for Just Thinking. I sat down with Charles. I said, hey, Charles, 2020, I want to focus on Just Thinking. I want them to be my focus. I see that they have a lot of potential, that we could take this thing and just take it to the next level. Me and Charles, 2019, started our plan for 2020, rebranding, changing the logo, creating a website, then developing a team, somebody for social media. I had somebody at the time. So it's funny. It is almost Word of Faith Charismatic. We literally kind of spoke this thing into existence. Like I really had a vision for Just Thinking to be at a certain level, to really make a push in 2020. That was my goal. 2019, me and Charles, I look back at the messages, you know, I got records of it. And we were chugging along, making that impact because their content was growing. They had actually made a couple of conference. They went to some conference in 2019, so that built some momentum. And then the pandemic hit, and then George Floyd happened. And so when George Floyd happened, and we released the episode George Floyd and the Gospel, it literally blew up. I've never in my life seen anything like this like, you know how they talk about going viral and things like that. I literally experienced that, man. Like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, notifications going off 24 hours a day, download numbers going through the roof, inboxes, emails.
That had to be overwhelming.
It was.
That had to be absolutely like.
It kept me up. It kept me up at night. I literally, listen, man. I was waking up in the middle of the night responding to tweets because I didn't know how to handle it. I mean, if there's a way you can go back on Instagram, the day the George Floyd thing blew up, and look at the stories, man. We probably got 1 million. I was reposting everybody's stories because I couldn't believe that everybody was catching on. Like, and so it took me probably about a week and a half to just kind of wait a minute, Dawain. Like, I turned off everything. I turned off. I had to get myself together, man, because it was like such a high. Not just, I mean, it just almost felt like a high. I understand what the kids go through whenever that happens. You know, the people that get famous, because it's literally a high. Like, it's so much going on, so much moving. And here's another thing that we didn't anticipate. People started just donating money. Like, we never asked for a dime. We never promoted, give to us, or support the podcast. Mm-hmm. Somebody found our donate tab, and it was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it still is ridiculous, matter of fact. So I just want to kind of give you the picture of what happened. George Floyd and the Gospel, it literally blew up. And that's when we started getting calls from Spotify, Anchor, all of those different places. Seeing both sides of it, seeing what happened with Just Thinking, and then, you know, living with the bar, it actually, what I think it actually gives me a dynamic that a lot of people don't have. Excuse me. What I mean by that is, if you're a successful podcast, you might not know what it's like to be a, you know, I guess you could say regular podcast. And you know what I'm saying? Like you can't relate to that. You know, you did something, it worked for you. Now you can tell people, oh, I did this, it worked, boom, boom, boom. And then when it don't work for them, then they looking funny. So I've experienced, you know, things you can do to be and really we didn't do anything with Just Thinking. We just said the right thing at the right time, and we just happened to be in a place where we could handle it when it came. Because Corey, I'm telling you, if this would have happened a year before, we'd have been chasing our tails till now. Yeah. But I was already prepared to get them to a place where they were substantial. And so when it happened, we actually had people in place and things in place that help. On the flip side with the bar, it's like I said, penicillin, man, it's still doing its thing. It's still trucking along. It's still consistent. You know, we still getting guests. I don't know when this dropped, but I got an interview with Wayne Gruden next week. So it's just constantly doing its thing, man. So just seeing both sides of it, I enjoy both sides, honestly. Yeah, I love that the bar is what it is. It's what I built it to be. It's time. It's like time work. I mean, it's like time. It's ticking. It's doing its thing every Tuesday. It's going to always be there. And it's always going to be consistent. Just Thinking is broke the mode. You know, before Just Thinking, I used to tell people you have to put a podcast out once a week. You got to be consistent. You got to do this. Just Thinking put out a podcast whenever they feel like it, and they always get they always get thousands of downloads. You know, I always tell people the best time frame for a podcast is about 30, 45 minutes. Just Thinking goes 2 hours and a half, and they still get the same.
Well, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's like you know, when that is there. Like when whatever that is, you know, for your show, when it's there, it doesn't really matter. Like none of those other details matter. Now, everything you're saying is probably true for the regular shows, that like the normal shows. Be in this time window, you know, release consistently, blah, 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 blah. But then once you hit, you know, once lightning strikes, it doesn't really matter. Like nobody cares. And just for everybody, in case you don't know, for some reason, you don't know about Just Thinking and you're listening to this, that George Floyd and the Gospel episode was episode 98. So they had done 97 episodes prior to that before, boom, right? And the tidal wave starts rolling. So
amazing, yeah. Episode 98, and they were not going to do the episode. They were not. Daryl was not. Virgil convinced him in the last minute to do it on a Saturday, and they said, "Okay, bet we'll just do it unscripted, you know, whatever." And
well, okay, let me say something here, and I'm going to be a little bit, I guess, a little bit vulnerable, if you will.
Okay.
So, I mean, all this stuff's happening, right? And my wife and I, we had multiple conversations, right? So, for those of you, this is a podcast, right? So you can't see. I am average white guy, right? like just imagine average white guy, and that's me, right? Okay. So I'm thinking through here, and I'm thinking, all right, am I wrong? Am I completely wrong in my thinking, or am I going crazy, or like what is happening right now? Like, and Katie and I, my wife and I, would talk about this, right? And it wasn't until I was like, okay, I've heard about this. This has been all over internet, you know, all over Twitter, all over any kind of system that I've been part of. This is George Floyd and the Gospel episode. This is George Floyd and the Gospel episode. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. It's 2 hours long, or however long it is. I don't even know how long it was.
Yeah, but it's 2 hours.
It's crazy long. I was like, okay. So I go out on a run and I put this thing on, and the whole time I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, like maybe I'm not crazy. Like, okay. Like at least, so it was a matter of like, I don't know. The best way I can describe it is like sanity in an insane world. And it was so reassuring is probably the wrong word, but that's the only word I can think about, is like, it was like, okay, here are people bringing truth from Scripture in just what seems like this crazy chaos time. So it's like, you know, and I know that, you know, you're a big part of that. And then one of the first tweets, I think the first tweet I ever sent you or ever commented on that had you involved in it was the Hammond B3, right?
Man.
Which, I mean, good heavens, just keep the Hammond B3 rolling through everything. Right? It's amazing.
I know, right? Look, I think I got a cue up here. Is it here? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't know I was going to get that today. I feel very honored. Very honored right there.
Oh man. So
that's
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, really, the George Floyd episode. I mean, when people discover us, they go back and see that this isn't new, and the whole purpose for Just Thinking was to provide the voice that was not being amplified. Only voices being amplified in media, mainstream media, ministry, was those that took the side of, social justice, to a point where it's unbiblical. Because we say that it's just justice and there's such thing as social justice, but and what they did with that episode is, because everybody was talking from one standpoint, one perspective, and these two black guys got on the microphone and said, "Hey, wait a minute, what does the scripture say? First of all, there's no such thing as race. We're all part of the human race. We have different melanin. Second thing, let's look at the situation. The situation does not warrant for national divide. The situation warrants for gospel resolution. Not it's all their fault. It's anybody's fault. One of the most powerful things that Virgil said, apart from Christ, we're no different than the police officer with our knee on George Floyd's neck. Apart from Christ, we're right there, doing it, maybe even doing worse, and so a lot of people needed to hear that, because they were not hearing that anywhere else. They were only hearing white people bad, black people victim. That's all they were hearing.
And to double down on that, I went, like, in my grad school, I remember taking classes where basically it was like, hey, you're a white man, you're the cause of these things. And it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I don't intentionally do anything. I don't ever, like, that's not my goal. And it was like, I was brought up in a family where we just respected everybody. Like, it didn't matter anything like that. It was respected everybody. Okay, like, it's not really my fault. I grew up in an area where, 5% of the population is black. Like, I can't do anything about that. That's where my parents lived. But it's like, we respected everybody. I had just as many white friends as I had black friends, except for the fact that we only had 5% of the people that were black. It's like, so it was like, it was just good to hear. It was good to hear. And I'll say it, right? Like, tell me if this is terribly wrong and I shouldn't say this, but it's like, it was good to hear two black men talking about that, and not hearing some, some white guy who would just be like, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're white." It was like, no, it was two black men bringing the truth from the Bible and telling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. What we want to get to the point is, it don't matter who's saying it.
Exactly.
Whether they're black or white. And it's funny because, we do and say things on Twitter, and some people are like, "Man, I wish I could say that." I was like, "Yeah, you can say it." Like, there's nothing wrong with you saying it. Don't be afraid. But it's a lot more whatever comes with that, and so that's why it makes a difference. And I'm cool with it. I guess what was not cool to me, which I know Virgil and Daryl don't have a problem with it, but sometimes. And because you got to think about it, we're focusing on gospel. We're not thinking about skin color, things like that. But sometimes people use our material as in, like, "Hey, here's two black guys." Like, no, why not? Here are two men of God that love Scripture. That's just me. I don't even think they feel like that, but that's just me. Sometimes that kind of, I ain't gonna say make me mad or anything, but it just kind of irk me a little. Like, why does it matter? What color they are. If they're speaking the truth, they're talking about the gospel, then it don't matter what color they are. But yeah, that's the only time where I say, just for me. But I'm cool. Like, you know me, man. I'm laid back. I'm down with whatever.
All right. So Dawain, I brought you on here, to talk about podcasting. I brought you on here because, the goal of the show, right? The show is, the title of it's Through the Cruft, right? So we're trying to find wisdom on the internet, right? Well, and what you're doing with the Bar Network, what you're doing with Just Thinking, what you're doing with all the other shows, and your role in those, right, is you're bringing biblical wisdom, right? And I appreciate that. So one of the things from a podcasting standpoint, what would you tell people if they're looking at getting into this, or, just about talking to the internet, like via a podcast? What would you tell them?
So first, I would say, be true to yourself. A lot of people, especially when they get into podcasts, they're looking for their voice, or they're trying to figure out, who they are, or, how they want to portray themselves, especially with a social media age where you can kind of paint a picture, like the kids say, the picture that your profile picture than the picture you're tagged in, one looks different. But when it comes to podcasting, I say be true to yourself. Make sure that you are, you don't put on a facade, or you don't try to be somebody else. I'm always the same, whether I'm talking to you or I'm talking to Lincoln Duncan. I'm gonna say, yeah, yo, what's up, all of that. And so I think if you do that, your listeners, first, they're going to appreciate that. And then you're going to bring value to them because they're going to relate to you. What you have to understand also with podcasting is you're not for everybody. You are for pretty much, taking it spiritual, but you're for whoever God called you to be for, or you're for whoever is interested in your niche. So you don't have to try to appease or do everything to gain the masses or get a whole bunch of downloads. So that's my number one thing. And then, also let the person off the mic be the same person on the mic. Hold yourself accountable to walk accordingly. According to Scripture, that's the standard for us. And so make sure that you're not just speaking it, but you're also living it.
Nice. So Dawain, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. Thanks for sharing your, your knowledge and teaching us about podcasting and all the stuff that goes along with that. If people want to learn more about you, they want to learn about the bar, anything like that, where are you pointing them to?
Yeah, man. So the best place to find me is my handle everywhere is Dawain21, DAWAIN, the number 21. And if you're interested in anything podcast related, go to thebarpodcast.com. That'll get you to my show. That'll get you to the network. There's a tab on there for network. And you can't see, but I got on this fresh beanie. That'll get you also to our merch line, something that I also do. So those are the best places to find me. You can also hit the contact button on the Bar Podcast Network page and send me an email, send me an inbox, anywhere, and I promise I'll respond. But yeah, that's me.
I appreciate you. Thanks to Dawain for coming on the show. If you enjoyed it, please consider reviewing it, rating it, and sharing it with your friends. You can find out more at Through the Cruft on Twitter or throughthecruft.com. Thanks.